My name is Alyssa Choate, and I will be hosting today's episode of the Purpose Center series Self Care Sundays, a holistic approach to a healthier you, where we talk about all things holistic health. I'll let our guest introduce herself briefly, and then we'll get right into today's focus on the benefits of hair care.
Hi, I'm Kara, and I'm a hairstylist of nearly 30 years. I'm currently working in Durham, North Carolina.
Would you mind explaining what the world of hairdressing includes for anyone who might not know?
Well, hairdressing is a pretty broad spectrum. But yeah, it's really just taking care of anyone's hair needs, having people come in and usually requesting a certain look or a feel, and us as hairstylists really being capable of kind of meeting their mind's eye to the mirror. Yeah.
Could you tell us what a typical day working at Union Hair Studio looks like for you?
Yeah, I mean, a typical day is about 8 straight busy hours, connecting with multiple different types of people, types of personalities, energies. And, I actually am a full service hairstylist. And what that means is I do lots of different things: cuts, colors, men, women, all ages, all types of humans. Really just like an open space of, yeah, just a lot of energy and a lot of caring for people.
How
Yeah.
many people do you usually see about a day, you think?
It averages depending on the service. So it's anywhere from 4 people, it could be 8 people,
Okay.
usually. Depends on the service we're doing. So let's say it's a hair color and a cut. I might spend 2 to even 4 to 5 hours with one person. Or if it's just a haircut, it could be 30 minutes to an hour with somebody. So, but it's usually 8 straight hours. Come into the salon, hit the ground running, don't stop, don't sit down, or we might collapse.
How often do you find that people that you're working with are actually like talking to you and like talking about their days, or like how does that usually happen within like the hairdressing?
So for me, it's very often, but I will say it depends on the hairstylist. There are different types of people, different, all kinds of energies. And I honestly feel like depending on the type of person that the stylist is, they sort of draw in and attract,
Yeah.
match the energies, right? So I'm someone who has built my career on talking to people. And in fact, when I first started, I always thought, well, I'm good at this because I have the gift of gab and I will learn the skills that I love.
Yeah.
So yeah, I typically am someone. My salon that I own is a space where if that's what people want, if they want to talk, they want to share, we're definitely a safe haven for that. Yeah.
And how did you personally discover that hairdressing was your path in life?
It's one of those funny things where if I look back, I can see that I was actually like a hairstylist since the time I could use my hands, honestly. Um, I was certain when I stepped into hair school, and that wasn't until I had completed 4 years of undergraduate education in the fashion world. And I decided I really just wanted to try hairdressing. So in my 20s, I was certain. But when I look back, I can see that it was always there. It's in my DNA. My uncle is a barber.
Okay.
My
And then,
sister is also a hairstylist.
oh, really?
Yeah,
Runs in the family, it
yeah,
seems.
yeah. That's often the
Um,
case.
and then, is there anything specific that your work as a hairstylist has kind of told you or taught you about the field of psychology?
Well, they call it therapy for a reason. And it's honestly, with respect to your industry, I joke, but I'm like, I'm such a wannabe therapist. And I think that interestingly, hair and beauty does embody that world. People, want to talk, they want to share, they want to feel a certain way. And I think so much of that comes from our insides. And can often be projected into our outside expression. So
Hmm.
I really feel like there's so much psychology and there's so many layers of it in what I do. And often I feel like when I'm working with someone and when I'm teaching the younger generation of stylists, the biggest thing is we have to approach things from the psychology of humans rather than what are they showing you a picture of versus how are they going to perceive that image on themselves and what do they really want, what are they really seeking. So we have to really be able to read between the lines, and I think we have to be very careful how we approach things in language and in conversation because of the psychology within human beings. If that does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes complete sense.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And after doing this for so many years, I feel like the patterns of psychology are very apparent. The behaviors we're not all so different as we think we are. Yeah.
Yeah. Were you expecting when you first started working in hairdressing for it to become like therapy? Did you know that aspect before getting into it?
No, no, I actually didn't. I had no idea. I started to learn that in my apprenticeship, and I think that I was sort of drawn to that part of it to help make me successful when I didn't actually trust what I was doing as a technician. Yeah.
And we've kind of touched on this, but like, could you explain like some of the benefits of hairdressing for people's mental and physical health?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of like if you think about the restorative power of a new outfit,
Yeah.
self-care is and hair and beauty and is it's the new outfit,
Hmm.
especially after the pandemic. I feel like self-care really is the new kind of fix that people need. And I just think that, yeah, when people feel good about their external, expression and how they present, they feel better about themselves emotionally, internally, and how they can connect with the world that expects, I think, a world of extroverts, right?
Hmm.
And so when you present that part of yourself and when you feel like it's a representation of your true self, I think it helps your mind and your spirit, lift.
Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned the pandemic kind of, and I think that's interesting because I didn't even think about the fact that people weren't able to go and get their hair done for a year or 2 years. And I'm sure after the pandemic had ended that you just saw an influx of people and were able to like help lift them up.
Yeah. One of the things that I notice in my industry is, as you can imagine, we actually physically touch people. And when you think about isolation, which then kind of ripples into some of the clientele that I have, some maybe elder people or people that are alone in the world, single, and they're often not touched. And so just giving a scalp massage at the sink and taking a few extra minutes can really help someone's mental health. Someone really knowing that they have this regular person to come to, someone that cares, someone in the community. Like to me, that's what the name of my hair salon means, which is Union Hair Studio. I guess I didn't say that in the introduction, but I own Union Hair Studio in Durham, North Carolina. And yeah, so creating that sort of synergy and that connection is really, I think, important in mental health care, you know,
Yeah.
and also and trust. Trust is such a big part of what we do in so many realms, and it
Yeah.
goes both ways, you know. As a hairstylist, I know that as I speak about the client, I know that it reverses and I get so much out of talking to a community of people, having, a consistent following of people who we grow and we go through so many life events, big things. Most of my clients, I mean, I've met 20 years ago. We've all been through so much together. And so there's just a real sharing and a real like it feels like a family, but one in which you choose, which can often be the healthiest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then at Union Hair Studio, what do you feel are your most rewarding or your most daunting tasks within your realm of work?
Honestly, the most daunting tasks are hiring outside of the comfort. We have this little bubble, right? Having people come in as a client and maybe expecting the same thing that they had at a previous space and a previous relationship with a stylist. Durham is a very transient area. So we do get a lot of people moving in and out. The old, well, my stylist used to do it this way. That can be very daunting and very frustrating because hairdressing is ultimately a handwriting. It's a personality match, and it's a handwriting that we can, it's like music. You can copy something, but it's never going to be identical, right?
Hmm.
So it's the same thing. The most rewarding is just, the smile on people's faces. People walking out feeling better than when they came in, connection, the bonds that are built. And as a stylist, feeling that constant creativity for me, constantly growing, learning from every experience, and also feeling validated at times when I'm able to read that person and really, hit it. When you really nail it, it feels so
Yeah.
good. Someone coming back in, someone telling you, jumping up out of your chair and literally giving you a hug. It's a profession where I think about it. It's like I don't hug my physician, you
Yeah.
know, but I would hug my hairstylist and they hug me. Yeah. So that feels really good. That the
Yeah.
intimacy and the care just is so rewarding. It makes it worth it. And watching young people grow, watching my team members, my fellow stylists grow and succeed and facilitating that, so rewarding. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the next question I have is how do you feel your work within hair care impacts your client's mental health and impacts your own mental health, which you've kind of hinted at already,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Basically the same. I mean, it's a sharing, right? And for me, it's really learning how to listen and learning that within sharing sometimes, or just being with each other, holding space, even if it's just a quiet space, whatever that looks like, there's just so much fulfillment, um, kind of mentally and almost spiritually, if you will. Yeah, it's like we're not alone. And it's my belief that we're all here for connection and love and belonging, even if we're people that need to be by ourselves sometimes or
Mhm.
always around others. But I feel like I'm able to see that connection and almost like the reason we're all here doing this. Like, why are people even coming in and spending this money to have these services that are ultimately a luxury?
Mhm.
The hair, I run a boutique hair salon. You know it's it's a luxury. We can Everyone wants their hair cut, but it's not really a necessity. And so
Mhm.
seeing that this choice that we make every day, it really does feel like it restores this feeling to me and humanity's, which is good for my mental health and I think the community around us, you know,
Yeah,
feeling
I think that's
support,
yeah.
feeling supported, feeling heard, feeling seen, and then having someone who really cares about us feeling better, right? I think that's really good for mental health. And I think it goes both ways. Me being received, it's like if you give a gift to someone or you provide a service, if they don't receive it, it's nothing, right? So
Mhm.
we need each other. And I think
Yeah.
that it really speaks to the mental health component for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the feedback that I get. People will say I need my Kara time. And and I laugh. I'm like, okay, so I can dust your ends and we're gonna have time together. And that's a really powerful thing.
Yeah. One of the last questions I have is if you were to tell someone out of everything so far, something that you've learned from your work in hair care that you wish everyone could know in relation to mental health, what would you want them to take away?
That's a really tough question, and I think the simplest way that I can say it is we're not alone. Um, you know, we all we all go through a lot. There's a lot of joy, there's a lot of adversity, and we that if we could just keep the perspective, you know, within ourselves, not be so hard on ourselves, and to try our best to not fall into the rules of, in my opinion, society and somewhat almost oppression.
Hmm.
Because rules of hair, rules of fashion, rules of how we're supposed to look, how we're supposed to present, what's appropriate, those are just ways that we keep people in their place, in my opinion. And I think I kind of see that behind the chair.
Yeah.
And I hear people afraid, oh, if I could just lose 5 pounds, I would cut my hair a little shorter. It's sort of like getting your house ready to sell it. And all of a sudden you're like, wait, it looks better than when I was living in it. Why didn't I enjoy it then?
Yeah.
And so it's a similar feeling. If we could just be kind to ourselves. And there's this one thing I do with people when they're really hard on themselves and they maybe say things that are mean to themselves. I'll often joke and say, okay, well, now we're going to say 3 things that we like about ourselves,
I think that's great.
both physically and, emotionally. And they get nervous and I'll do it first. And then then everyone smiles and it lightens the mood. And it's like, we need to love ourselves. And it's fun to play around with our self expression. It's amazing to care for ourselves. And like I said, care for each other. And we it all starts within us. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've learned is that similarity. We're not all so different from each other.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. And the term therapy, I just think is
It's
amazing.
yeah, a therapist. We're just wannabe therapists, Alyssa.
I love that. Okay, my
Yeah.
last question is, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
And like what do you mean? Like as far as like getting in to see me or
Getting to see
yeah.
you, following you on social media, anything.
Yeah. Union Union Durham at Union Durham is my Instagram. And um, my hair salon is uniondurham.com, 919-237-2374. You can email us. Yeah, you can pop in. I'm right off of East Campus, so it's a really cool spot in Durham. Yeah, just call
Perfect.
us and look us up on social. Yeah,
I'll include all the links below too whenever we post this video. And again, thank you so much for joining us today.
thank you, Alyssa. I really appreciate it. This
Thank
is a very
you.
new thing for me, and it's an honor, and I'm happy to support you as well. I think it's really cool what you're doing,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
and I love your practice, and I love Katrina too. So
Shout out to Dr. Katrina.
yes.